We're the oldest and the largest chapter in the U.S. There are 14 of them, and all of our work goes to educate people about issues of interest to women around the world, to fundraise for programs for UN Women, and to raise awareness about some of the issues. So everything that we do goes to support UN Women programs around the world. For example, programs that combat violence, programs that provide education for girls, programs to help women in times of war. That's what we support. We had Rory Kennedy here yesterday. We've had a number of other very prominent filmmakers come. They love to come to this festival. We have a very receptive audience. We also try to organize educational activities for students in the area, for women's groups sometimes. But the films are of a wide range of issues. We had films today about issues of mental health, about the environment, films that are global. We've had films from Brazil, from the Philippines, from Vietnam. So we really try to have a very wide range of films. So it's of interest not just to people who are especially interested in film, but also people who just want their eyes open to some new issues. We want women to be aware of what women are doing around the world, what some of their concerns are, and what some of their issues are. We think that women all over, including here in Sarasota, here in America, can play a role, can become more informed. We have a very receptive audience for that, actually. Women are really hungry to know what's happening in other places. They're hungry about issues they can be involved in, whether it's health, whether it's education, whether it's the environment. So we think we really bring something to people who want to hear that. It's important for them as filmmakers because often they are marginalized in mainstream film communities. They don't get a fair shot, and yet they make films about the widest range of issues from a fantastic perspective. And so we try to give a little bit of voice to that, but some of our films also, as I say, we might have a film on an automaker. They touch many, many topics. We want them to come see our films, of course, and we really want them to take away the message that the filmmakers have. And we have many filmmakers here tonight who will be speaking. We want them to really be more aware, I think, one, of what women filmmakers are doing. When they go to a film, say who made that film, what was her perspective, what was his perspective, and to be aware about the issues that the filmmakers make. Again, as I say, many of them raise very interesting social issues, and one of them will spark you.
My film began when I was a Fulbright scholar in Oman, Morocco, and Tunisia. And the Arab Spring happened when I was there. And so for me, the film was the equivalent, well actually the beginning of the film was the equivalent of the fall of the Berlin Wall. So nothing was ever going to be the same again. So the film begins simply with the question, so you land a revolution in a country and then what? And it was really important to me, especially as an American, to get characters you actually cared about rather than talking heads or analysts or journalists. Even though I am a journalist, I wanted to tell the story through the eyes of people I think would be most affected. And I think that one way of looking at the health of a democracy is really the way a country treats its women. And so we found these two wonderful women, and the Islamist that you see, Zahra, in the story, who's one of our heroes, she was simply one of the people that I went to the Islamist party and I just asked them who might be willing to let me film them and follow them and be part of their lives after the revolution. And she was one of the people I auditioned, and she was the most honest and the most open person. the revolution is really just the first step, and overthrowing the dictator, any dictator, is really just the first on a huge journey, and it is a journey, and it's only been just over 6 years since Tunisians threw out their dictator, and I believe that the amount that Tunisia and Tunisians have been able to accomplish in that time has been completely overlooked in the eyes of the world, and I think if only that, and even frankly, simply if people can just see, women in hijab, women wearing scarves, working till 2 and 3 in the morning with these strange men to really create their democracy. If they can see that and take a little inspiration of that away, to me, then that would be a success. The screenings have gone really well. I think the Europeans kind of led the charge. They were most excited. They got it before the Americans did, but especially kind of in this post-election era, I think that people are really wondering, there's a real hunger here for anything that has to do with a real democracy, and for questions about democracy and democracy building, and what it means, frankly, and whose voices should be heard, and how to listen to everybody. There is something to be said for films that are made featuring women and by women, right? There's still a paucity of really excellent stories, and what we tried to do was tell a great story that just happens to feature women, and so that's why it is really important for me to have this film here. I'm very happy to be here with it.
So Striking a Chord follows a musician named Nell Bryden who tours in Afghanistan and Iraq. And through that footage of her visiting the troops and playing for them, it tells the story about how art therapies, music therapy, and especially art therapy can start the healing process for veterans or anyone with PTSD. Is really getting personal stories about the pain of the veterans returning to communities. You get a sense that it may or may not be difficult, or but really the resources are so limited, and the stigma around mental health issues is so strong. Even in this day and age, it's so strong, and so it's really interesting to be able to bring this work to people, and to watch how art in any media can transform people. So the reaction has been amazing. We are partnering with Americans for the Arts. They have a National Institute for Arts and Healing in the Military. So the Directors Foundation had worked with them to write a white paper about this issue of arts therapy in the military. And then this film has been able to bring those ideas, across to not only veterans and their families, but also the larger public, to kind of talk about the stigma around mental illness, and also that art therapy is really an amazing tool for veterans and their families, but then also the whole community, bringing communities together, supporting veterans as they are returning. Well, I think supporting women's directors, films made by women, is exceedingly important. The disparity in, that you see in the Oscars and in film festivals and all, in the funds that are given to films and who are hired to do films is extraordinary. So I think that any event that you have that supports women directors specifically is very, very important. And this is just a great festival. This is the second time I've been here. We were here a couple years ago with another film, and it's so warm and welcoming, and the women who are involved in this organization are so interested and so interesting that it's just so much fun to be here and to talk about the issues and to see what questions they have, and the way that they think about the films really helps. It's exciting. It's exciting.
My badge, huh? My name is Mirella Martinelli. Here in Sarasota, I am known as Mika. I am now a Sarasota resident. I am originally from Brazil. The film Pool is a short film, not so short, of 30 minutes, shot in Brazil, but edited by myself here in Sarasota, and together with the director of the film that is also an editor, Leandro Godinho, who's now based in Berlin. So we edited the film long distance. So Pool, I think, is a very important film because we know a lot about the killing of Jews in the Holocaust, but most people know very little about the killing of homosexuals. So homosexuals were also killed in large numbers in concentration camps in the case of the men. In case of the women, they were just considered asocial. So it was considered that their disorder, in case of lesbians, could be corrected with time. So they were spared, but they had to prostitute themselves to the SS soldiers in order to survive in the concentration camps. But this film is not a documentary. It is a narrative film. The film takes the story of a young woman, relatively young, in her 30s, named Claudia, or in English, Claudia, who is in search of some more information about her late grandmother, who passed away just a few years ago, but was a very mysterious woman. So Claudia finds this elderly lady living inside an empty swimming pool. So her entire home is inside this empty swimming pool, empty of water, but with her furniture. And Claudia tries to get some information about her grandma from this elderly lady. And so she finally finds out that they had a relationship, very brief, when they were young, because they were very repressed by the elderly woman's mother. So they had to separate, so they could not pursue that relationship. And the interesting thing is that, to me, in the film, it's very interesting that the film brings that the struggle of some generations may not be resolved in that generation, but it will pave the way for further generations. For example, Claudia is married to another woman. She is a lesbian herself, and she and her wife have just adopted a baby. So both of these things are legal in Brazil, gay marriage, and gay couples can adopt children. And we can see the contrast with 2 generations before, when they could not even develop a relationship. At our first cut, or first version of the film, was 50 minutes, but by contract with the Secretary of Culture of the state of São Paulo in Brazil, where this film was funded, we had to cut it down to 30 minutes. So it was not easy to get rid of 20 very good minutes. But this task made us go down and down to the essence of the film. So in a way it was good, because it really brought us to the core of the film. So I think what we have there is a very powerful and compelling film. So I think one of the importance of having, through women's eyes, films that are, it's a festival organized by women that mostly talks about women and portrays a lot of films by women filmmakers, is that we need to end this gender inequality. It's more than time to end that, including in the wages. Women should be making as much as men. It's ridiculous that in a country like the United States there is such difference. And as for young filmmakers that are women and want to pursue that career, there is nothing to stop you. You can do anything you want, but you have to pursue it, with a lot of, you have got to be persistent. But that's with about anything that you're going to do. And I am a Sarasota resident. I am a filmmaker. I am looking for cinematographers to pair with to make some artistic work here. And so in that way it would be very nice to network here. And in any case, it's very nice to see other people's work. We get very inspired by other people's work. And of course to show the work that we have done also, because a film only exists if you have an audience. If you don't show to an audience, the film is nothing.
My name is Heather Booth, and Lily Rivlin, a remarkable filmmaker, made a film called Heather Booth, Changing the World. And it was so wonderful that Through Women's Eyes, as part of the International Women's Film Festival, accepted this as a film, because the film is about how we can change the world if we organize, but only if we organize, and if people take action on the issues they care about, we actually move forward and have a better future. The film follows me through my own life in work through the civil rights movement, working for voting rights in the South in Mississippi in 1964, through the movement for women's rights and women moving to earn an equal place in society, through protest against the war in Vietnam. I met my husband at a sit-in against the war in Vietnam. And then through labor organizing. And I set up a training center called Midwest Academy. The academy still exists and trains organizers in thousands of organizations. It's based in Chicago, but trains people around the country. And then in 1980, I realized elections really matter. And we need to move the power that we've built on issues into elections. I became involved in a variety of elections, and then at the state, national, and local levels. And then I started to run large-scale coalitions of organizations. And in 2000, I ran the advocacy arm of the NAACP, called NAACP National Voter Fund. It helped to increase African American turnout by nearly 2 million votes. And then I advised the National Immigration Reform Campaign. I worked on the outreach for the healthcare fight, and then on Social Security and marriage equality and other issues. And what I found through all of this is that we really can change the world for the better, but only if we organize. I thought it was inspiring to hear these filmmakers through women's eyes, from young women who started at the age of 16 to an older filmmaker, Lily Rivlin, who was the filmmaker from the film I was in at 80, and all ages in between. So it's inspiring. And through film, you can bring messages of hope, of education, of culture change, and through that, begin to change the world. I find the actions young people are taking truly inspiring. Young people really are in the leadership of the fight for $15 an hour, and 1.4 million people around the country have had their wages increased because of that fight, or United We Dream, or the Women's March. All of these were led by young women, and they've realized that if we take action, we can make this a better world. The big message is that if we organize, we can change the world, but we need to come together on a shared vision and take action and do the daily work, and we will make this a better world.
The film is about Heather Booth. Through her, I tell the story of 50 years of the progressive movement. She started in Mississippi, and she keeps on going. And I let you know everything you want to know about how to organize. And the most important thing about Heather Booth is she keeps saying, if you organize, you can change the world, and that's the name of the film. I make films about activist women. I think that's my niche. So the first film was Grace Paley, collected shorts. The third one, Grace Paley was a writer. The second one is Esther Broner, A Weave of Women. And Esther Broner is the person who started the Feminist Seder. Through her, Heather is the first person I'm making a film about who's not a writer. Her art is organizing, and I was attracted to Heather because I knew that through her I could do 50 years of the progressive movement, which is what I did, and teach people everything they want to know about how to organize. And it's a very timely, relevant film right now, which is why we're being invited to festivals. I want them to be inspired. That's the most important thing. And I think she inspires. Through her, you see this young woman who was 17 when she started, who goes to Mississippi and at a very critical time in the life of civil rights, and continues and is still doing it. She's 70 years old and she's still doing it. And that's what I want people to see, that if you have a passion, you can change the world. She's taught me to say what she says all the time, which is, if you organize, you can change the world. Women have been underrepresented throughout history. The history is the history of men. And as a feminist, and I've been a feminist since the second wave, which is in the early 70s, I think it's really important that half of humanity is heard. And so to have festivals that are devoted to women filmmakers who make films about women should have happened 100 years ago, but I'm so glad it happened now. That's my main thing. And Sarasota has a very good reputation, so I'm very happy to be here.
So my name is Kasia Slavner. I'm from Toronto, Canada, and my film is called The Sunrise Storyteller. So The Sunrise Storyteller is a feature-length documentary about the ways people are overcoming adversity in their communities, whether that be a personal struggle or a global issue. So I took a year off school when I was 16 to travel abroad for 6 months to East Africa and Southeast Asia to cover these stories of triumph over adversity. And although they are very different and diverse issues, they all have the thread of hope and resilience throughout them and the perseverance to make the world a better place. There's no way to sum up my title because I'm the director, cinematographer, editor, scriptwriter. Mostly, with my mom as the producer figure on the film. I've been involved in social justice issues since I was about 8 years old in my own local community. But when I was 14, I attended a UN commission called the Commission on the Status of Women. And that attracts women and men from every continent in the world, and they all come together with their own organizations. And they gather in New York to discuss ways that we can make progress on gender equality. And I heard the obstacles and challenges they were facing in their own communities and how they were still really motivated to make a change, and that sparked my brain, and I said, wow, like, they're doing this despite all odds. What can I do to make the world a better place too? Well, I have this passion for film, photography, visual storytelling. I want to go out and share their stories. So I ended up pitching the idea to my mom, kind of a crazy idea because we didn't have the resources to do that. I said, what if I took a year off school and just made a film? And she's like, well, that's a great idea, but like, we're going to have to get the funding for that. So we crowdsource funded the film. Well, the film this morning, it got a standing ovation, which I was really, really happy to see, and the audience engagement was really great. People had a lot of questions, and I was happy to connect and answer the questions that they had. From start to finish, it took about 2 years, I'd say, 2.5 years. So I left for the trip on my 16th birthday. We traveled for 6 months. I got home, wrote the script the summer I got home, while attending school. So I wrote the script in the summer, edited the film the next summer and into the fall, and at the same time I was completing my high school education. There's one story that they connect with the most. That's great. If there's 2 or 3, that's great too. But even if there's a lesson that they learn from seeing the film and seeing all the stories together, it's that when things get tough and life seems impossible, that there's always a way to make it better, and there's always a way to persevere, and that just to keep going, because the world needs our dedication. My suggestion for any young woman interested in making the world a better place, even if that's through film or not, would just be to find your passions and follow them. Because for me, my passion was visual storytelling. For somebody, it might be something else. It may be visual arts, it may be soccer for that matter, but just pairing that with an issue that you really care about, I think that's a great way to start making change. I think for many years, women have been told that our voices don't matter and that our stories don't matter, and that this kind of thing isn't important, because why would it be important in the first place? I think that having this avenue and this platform for women to share their stories can inspire anybody, not just women. It can inspire communities. It can inspire the world, really. So just having this is a step in the right direction.
Sure. Supergirl is the coming-of-age story of an 11-year-old Orthodox Jewish girl who's a world record-holding powerlifter. And I read about my main character, whose name is Naomi, in an article a few years back after she had broken a world record at 10 years old, and also had done that at 9 years old, and was very intrigued that a young girl was competing in this sport and lifting close to 3 times her body weight, and then also was from a very traditional religious background. The film tells a very empowering story, for everyone, but particularly for girls and women. So I hope that people can see this film and feel empowered and inspired in their own lives to achieve their goals. And also, I think, Naomi and her family are part of two niche groups, Orthodox Jews and powerlifters, where you don't come across those in your everyday life. And I think there are these stereotypes and stigmas that exist. So I think the film shows a very intimate portrait of her and her family as just regular people. So I think my hope is through watching the film, people will relate to them on a very personal level that kind of transcends those stereotypes. There are not a lot of Jews that go to these competitions, and I thought there might be, there wouldn't be so much open and acceptance, but it was actually quite the opposite. And Naomi and her family are really embraced in the powerlifting world. Just at first glance, you would never assume that, but they're definitely unique, but they're totally accepted and embraced. Yeah, well, actually, her dad is a powerlifter. So she started at 8 years old, and they train in the basement of their house in New Jersey. And so she, has definitely she did it initially because of her dad and to spend more time with him, and now through the film you see her grow up and kind of take it on as her own thing and part of her identity. Naomi and her family didn't see the film until our world premiere, in the theater at the Hamptons. So that was exciting because I wasn't sure if they were going to love it or hate it. And to my great relief, they loved the film. And the first time I heard Naomi express how she felt about it was during the Q&A, when they asked her, what was it like to see yourself on the big screen? And her answer was, well, it wasn't as awkward as I thought it was, which, now she's 15. So in my opinion, for a 15-year-old girl to not think it's awkward to see themselves in a film, I think that says a lot. Documentary filmmaking is definitely challenging, as some people might know, and often you're working with very low budgets and kind of have to scrap it all together. So, I had a lot of friends and people do favors on the film and work for very little or no pay, and I wore a lot of hats in the film. But yeah, this is also my first feature film, so it was a huge learning experience. But we were lucky enough to get some grants and did a Kickstarter campaign at the end, so we were able to raise some funds to hire other people and do a professional sound mix, do a professional color correction, hire music composers, and really pull it together. And now it's been showing at festivals and been really well received, so definitely paid off. Not literally, because documentaries don't make a profit. The film has been playing at festivals now for about 6 months. Premiered at the Hamptons International Film Festival in October, doing the circuit. But this is actually, Sarasota is great because it has the Through Women's Eyes component, which really embraces and highlights women-directed and focused films. And this is the first festival that has had this particular emphasis on female-focused films. And so I think that's, first and foremost, really important. But yeah, in general, I'm excited to share the film with the Sarasota community. Documentary films don't often play in theaters nationwide, and so the festival circuit is a way to get the film to audiences that might not be able to see it in different places around the country. So yeah, it's been great. A lot of people might be scared off of pursuing their artistic ambitions because it's not easy. It's definitely not easy, but I think just my advice would be to not be deterred by any challenges you overcome, because there will be challenges and you will get thrown curveballs, but especially with documentary filmmaking, you just kind of have to go with the flow and be patient and persistent and just, stay on task, because it will, pay off in some way in the long run.
It's basically about a medical aid robot named Iris who helps a patient with Alzheimer's sort of find his past, and in doing so sort of validate both of their futures. Basically, my grandfather was diagnosed with Alzheimer's several years ago, and sort of watching that deteriorating process was very crippling for me, very hard. And I wanted a way to sort of express that. And obviously, as a filmmaker, what better way than creatively through the visual arts? So this was sort of my therapy in order to express myself and sort of have a dialogue with him, knowing that I would never be able to show this to him and he would never be able to understand it, but maybe in doing this, I would be able to find some sort of closure that I'll never be able to have with him. So this is sort of the second film that I've directed ever. I am a FSU student at the Florida State University College of Motion Arts School. And basically, you get a budget of $200 and you get a week to sort of pre-pro, shoot it. Production itself is 2 days, which is crazy. And we built the robot costume itself in a little less than a week, which is crazy now that I know that. And the editing process itself and sound was about a week. So we filmed it all within a summer, along with 22 other films that my classmates and I both worked on together. So I had the amazing company of 12 other of my classmates, and together we just sort of prevailed and sort of worked it out. It's a whole learning experience, and that's great. And the growth from it was amazing. So obviously, from my family itself, they're very proud of it in the sense of, it has my grandfather's name is Richard, which is the main male's character's name, and then the actual film that you see projected on the wall is my papa and my nana and everything. So it's very family oriented. I wanted this film to be very, very intimate and personal just because it's such a personal topic to me. And I hope it shows. But basically, all in all, it's just one of those things that for me, positive feedback from faculty, and it's really helped catapult me in terms of wanting to go into more contemporary sci-fi film. There's a lot of things that sort of questions that I open up, and I don't know if I fully answer them because I don't know if I have answers myself. One, where does the medical field have in the future? I know that we are sort of going into a direction where robots actually are being created and manufactured to aid patients with Alzheimer's and other sort of diseases, things of that nature. And I don't know quite how I feel about it yet. I don't know if that is positive or negative. There's definitely pros and cons. So they're sort of opening a dialogue about that, which I feel like is important. Also, just sort of reaching out to, I think, a community that is in itself not really recognized. Alzheimer's itself is sort of, because there is no cure or anything, and it feels kind of hopeless in and of itself, people tend to just kind of look the other way. And I think just shining a light on what can be and the potential of finding maybe one sort of shred of hope within that is always nice. And just all in all, like finding a way to bring a voice to the subject, and a female voice, which I don't know if I've ever seen before. And I think having a voice is so important in a film, and any way that a filmmaker can bring that in and make it personal and make it captivating is so great to see, and I think it resonates on the film and on the screen. So I'm surrounded by amazing, empowering women who are just miles above where I'm at currently in my state. So one, I selfishly love it because I get to sort of learn from their achievements and mistakes, and I get to sort of grow in that capacity, and I love that. It's a great way to connect with other females in the art, which who can hate that? So, and also, basically, it's just, again, it's a great way to sort of see other women and how they go through their lives and what their sort of stories are to tell. And I think stories are such a great thing, especially in today's society where there's so much going on. And I think we all need to rely on the arts and not forget that the arts are such a great way to sort of come together as a people, as a nation, and as a global community. And I think no matter where you're from, there's always something to tell that's always interesting, and seeing it through women's eyes is the best way, I think, for me to sort of grow from that. I'm in my second year, so I graduate in August, so it's coming up. I know. I'm trying not to think too much about it because it kind of freaks me out, but what does the future hold for me? I don't know. I'm very excited about the fact that I feel like there's a lot open to me, and that's both terrifying and exciting at the same time. I think one of the most beautiful things about film is that there's no one direct path. There's sort of multiple sort of branches that you can go. And I'm willing to sort of ride the wave of wherever life kind of wants to take me. I would love to do some music videos. I think I've been focusing on narrative for so long. Like, it might be fun to try something a little bit more abstract and a little bit not grounded so much in reality. I think that could be a great way to just sort of stretch out my other arm. I'm also open to, I've been offered a few things, working on like a submarine for a couple months to film some stuff for the Navy, things of that nature, yeah. So we'll see. If worst comes to worst, I end up in LA and I'm living in a car, who cares?
My name's Carrie Schrader, and I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, and I'm here with the Founders Film, which is screening tonight, Saturday night at 7:30. The film has screened in festivals around the world, and Through the Women's Eyes in Sarasota, reached out to us and said, this is what we're doing. This is the festival we're having. We'd love for the founders to be a part of it. And of course, we were immediately thrilled. Our mission behind making the film is very similar to the mission of Through the Women's Eyes. So that we can be here telling this incredible story about these women, women who were really invisible in our society before, women who did amazing things and overcame so many obstacles. It's just the perfect fit for a film festival like this. So The Founders is about the 13 women who founded the Ladies Professional Golf Association. So, for you golfers out there, you may know the story of them. For you non-golfers, you might not know the story about them. I did not know the story about these women. And in fact, Charlene Fisk, who really had the idea to make this film, she's a documentary filmmaker, and I'm more on the make-believe side of filmmaking. And we met through a different project, and she kept saying, come help me tell this story, come help me make this documentary about these women who founded the LPGA. And I thought, I know nothing about golf. Who's going to watch an hour-and-a-half film about golf? How are we going to make this into a movie that golfers and non-golfers, non-athletes even want to see? And then she told me, you've got to see the footage of these characters. And when I saw them, I met these just amazing women who are fantastic and flawed, just like natural heroines. And immediately I was like, maybe this isn't make-believe, but these are some of the best characters. You can't make this up. They're so fantastic and funny and hilarious. And just seeing what they do, what they did, and I just didn't even know. I pride myself in knowing who my heroines are, and I had no idea what these women did. Not just for sports, not just for golf, but for all people. They really paved a way for all of us. So it's just one of those stories. As we've screened it across the country, there's never a dry eye on the house, and it's always filled with laughter. So I'm just so proud that happens, that I get to say I helped tell this story of these women, and it helps other people feel alive and inspired. And that's why we do it. That's why we live, right? So we can all live more fully. We can all make choices. They might be very uncomfortable. They might be scary, but we can all choose to wake up and do what we love to do in this world. You see what these women do, and it really makes you kind of laugh at all the little excuses you might have in your head of why you don't do something, because what they did back then was nearly impossible. They were told they can't do it. They were told they should stop doing it. They persevered because they loved it. And I think that's something in this day and age that we can all learn from, is to do it, not only because it serves you and because then you get to do something you love, but in doing that, you pave the way unknowingly for other people to do what they love and to take chances and risks and to succeed. Women are simply saying we want to be represented because, well, we make up half of the population, so at least half of the films out there should be about women. It just only makes sense, just mirror what's actually happening. But beyond that, it provides a really great opportunity for us to network with each other, support one another. It's really important in this world to bond together, to join forces, to create allies with everyone in this world who's trying to tell great stories, but especially women. Women and the stories we tell are often underlooked, they're unseen for really no reason other than sometimes we get, oh, well, they're not as marketable. But what we're finding is that women control the money in most households in America now. They make most of the financial decisions in America in the household right now, and they want to see good quality stories of just great characters who, sometimes I think, who cares if they're men or women? It's important that they're women, but we just want to see great characters in an equal representation. It's kind of just common sense. I mean, it's so simple. If you love storytelling and you know that's what you're supposed to do, that's what you're meant to do, then just do it. Do it every day. Show up at the page, get your camera, show up and keep doing it and doing it and doing it. Come to events like this. Events like this are the best place to come and see other filmmakers, meet people, talk to people, and make your own short film and write, be humble to the craft every single day, and eventually you'll get there.
I heard both.